Well, I'm back. The Mustang's back. It's been 2 years since I've uploaded, and it's been 3 years since we introduced this car to the channel. In the introduction video, I talked about the full mod history of this car, how it was my first car, and I also mentioned I hadn't driven the car in over a year because the battery died. Shortly after that video, I got a battery in the car, started driving around, and I quickly realized why I had let the car sit for so long. I hated driving the car. Hate is a strong word, but I simply was not happy driving this car around, and I made it my mission to fix the issues with the car that made me unhappy. I'm happy to say I love driving the car now. Unfortunately, we have another dead battery. We'll talk about that. You can see it's in the rear now, but I need to update you guys on what I've done over the last 3 years. I also want to update you on the next goal for the car, show you the parts that are going to be going on it. I don't have a timeline for the next goal because we got to make sure everything is perfect. Let's jump right into it. Okay, real quick, don't worry, I did not coyote swap it. We still have the 2.3 turbo. So the first thing I had to fix on the car was the suspension. When I originally put the Maximum Motorsports suspension on this car, my only goal was to lower the car. I didn't even care about performance or handling or anything. I just wanted the car to be low. So I got the shortest, stiffest springs that I could get. I bought everything used, and I bought everything off eBay. And honestly, it was absolutely horrible. The car rode terribly, and I'm pretty sure the springs were completely compressing all their coils together over bumps because the car felt like it was just gonna fall apart and blow up into pieces. This time around, I used the same shocks and struts, but I just got the softest springs from Maximum Motorsports. I got 325s in the front, 175s in the rear, and I raised it up 2.5 inches, and I could not be happier. Sure, you know, it looked better when it was lowered, but I just want to enjoy the car. I drove like that for over 10 years, and it was absolutely miserable. It's completely transformed, and honestly, I think it handles great. I think it feels like a performance car. I will never put stiff springs on a car again. Okay, we're in the interior now, and this shifter was making me hate driving the car because it is very sloppy and it is very cheaply made. I got the cheapest shifter I could find, and you can see the theme here, just buying cheap crap and putting it on my car, typical teenager stuff. So I decided this time around, the car deserves the most expensive shifter I could find, stock appearing shifter. And I found this Hurst Billet Plus on LMR. It was in the $250 range. Can't remember exactly. It was 2 years ago I put this on, but completely transformed the car. I love this shifter. It made the T5 feel so smooth, so responsive, and it's just so enjoyable to shift this car now. I cannot recommend this enough. It has made it such a joy to drive, and yeah, it's pretty much it. Simple mod, big improvement. And don't mind the mess, guys. We're doing some R&D that I am very excited to talk about in the second half of the video. Okay, I know what you're thinking. I literally took 3 years to swap my shifter and install springs on my car, but trust me, this last mod is a little bit more involved. The last thing that I didn't like about the car was the throttle response. The throttle body had a lot of extra linkage for cruise control. I got rid of that throttle body, and what we have here is a 75mm Thunderbird Super Coupe throttle body. It's got an adapter so that it bolts on. I'm using the Thunderbird Super Coupe throttle position sensor. I'm using the stock IAC. We have a throttle cable from a carbureted Fox body. I think it was an 84 V6 carbureted car. It's much shorter, but it fits. And then we have a custom throttle bracket to mount it up. Body is very responsive. It's very simple. It doesn't have any of the extra linkage on it, and I can feel all that response at the throttle pedal. Now you might be thinking 75mm is way too big for a little 4-cylinder like this, and you are exactly right. This throttle body destroyed the low-speed drivability of the car. Like through parking lots, I have to slip the clutch now just to get this thing to move along without surging. But honestly, it feels so good at full throttle and just rolling into the gas and mashing it. This thing is awesome. It's like an on-off switch. I'm enjoying it for now. Yes, I'll probably end up hating it, but for now I really enjoy it because that sloppy throttle response was horrible. Okay, so the last update is we did a battery relocation on the car. Now that the battery in the front of the car wasn't something I hated or anything like that, but this is actually part of the second goal for the car that we're going to talk about shortly. First, I just want to go over the battery relocation since it's already done. This started out with me welding this battery tray to the trunk. This was my first welding project. I think it turned out okay. I also picked out all of the cables, terminals, and wire myself, crimped it all. We have a circuit breaker here that cuts the power. If anything bad happens, it's also convenient to just hit this button and cut power. I'm really happy with how the wires were ran. I was able to completely hide them. And my favorite part was I was able to use the factory cruise control grommet to run them through the inner fender. Up in the front, I just connected them to the factory locations on the starter relay and on the engine block. I also have a ground connection in the rear. And the reason I chose to run the second ground all the way up to the front to the factory mounting point on the engine block was because when I did a battery relocation on my Honda Civic, I had a lot of issues with voltage consistency until I ran an extra ground wire. And my theory is that on a lot of these old unibody cars, rust just forms in between the unibody panels and makes it very hard for the car to ground all the way up to the front when all you have is one ground in the rear. Not to mention all the most important components to the car actually running are up front. So I decided to do that. So hopefully this table isn't underwhelming, but the next goal for this car is to overhaul the engine bay. And usually that would mean an engine swap or bigger turbo or polishing a bunch of components. But in my eyes, the biggest issue with the engine bay is clutter, and that is mainly caused by too many wires and the wire harness just being way too big. I think that streamlining the wiring on this car will drastically improve the engine bay. And all of these components are going to help us do that. Okay, so the first part we have here is a starter from a 1993 Mustang 2.3. And the difference between this and what's currently on the car is that this starter has an integrated starter relay. The starter on the car does not, and the starter on the car relies on the relay that's on the inner fender of the car. What this starter is going to allow us to do is delete the starter relay on the inner fender and use a simple relay such as this, and we would even be able to locate this small relay inside the car, which would allow us to drastically clean up that messy mess of wires. Okay, so next we have this Dakota digital dash, and you might be wondering, how is this going to improve the engine bay wiring of the car? And the answer is that it's not, but it's fucking cool. Just kidding, it's going to improve it a little bit. Because what this is going to allow us to do is delete the factory speedo cable, delete the factory oil pressure sender wire from the tack to the existing dash. And instead of all those dedicated wires for the dash, we're going to use this module that's going to have two CAN wires that run to the dash, providing all the information that the ECU has to power the dash gauges. Not to mention, there's two little screens in here, and we're going to be able to display whatever we want from the ECU, whether that be oil pressure, air-fuel ratio, boost. It's going to be awesome. I also 3D printed a connector so that I won't have to cut up the existing wire harness when I install this. The way this connector works is I can slip the pins in the back like a factory connector, clip on a retaining clip on top to hold the pins in place, and then just clamp it right on. If you're interested in something like this, I might sell a batch of these. Okay, next we have an alternator. Remember how I said it was a little cluttered where that alternator currently is on the car? Well, we're gonna remove the existing power steering pump, and we're gonna put this alternator where that is using this custom bracket that I got. We also have the proper wires for this alternator so that we can install it on the car. And in general, this is a really great upgrade for these cars. I didn't buy a kit from anyone. I just got this off Rock Auto. I'll put a link in the description. Definitely gonna look a lot better than the current flopped over alternator that we have. So if we delete the existing power steering pump, here is our solution. This is a Volvo electric power steering pump, and we're gonna build a custom bracket to mount this somewhere in the inner fender. We have the harness here for this, and the simplest way to hook this up is just with the power and ground wire, and this thing will run in a limp mode, and it'll run at a fixed speed. But if you're able to hook up the CAN wires to this, you can control the speed. The goal is to be able to control the speed, and the goal is to design a custom PCB housing that we will 3D print and write some computer code to control the speed of this pump based on the vehicle speed sensor that we can get from the Mega Square. So if you don't hear from me for a year after I install the alternator in a few weeks, it's because I'm trying to figure all that shit out. And last, once we have all that installed and figured out and sorted out, and maybe we'll add some other stuff along the way, we are finally going to install a proper harness in the car. Now we are going to have to modify this. I want to be able to add the starter relay here. We're going to remove a lot of wires from this to simplify it because we don't need the TFI. Here's, I think, the oil. Look how much thinner this harness is than what's currently on the car. It's going to be a huge improvement, and what I would really like to do, wire tuck this entire harness. So once we get there, we'll start planing that out, but this is the end goal. Okay, it feels good to finally get an update out on the Mustang after 3 years. Can't wait to install that Dakota Digital Dash. We're doing that in the next video. I just want to see that thing light up with all the readings on the screen and everything from the Mega Squirt. I think it's going to be super cool. So if you're interested, like, comment, subscribe. Comment below if we should engine swap this car eventually. I really can't decide with the current state of the 2.3 world if it's worth going forward with that or if we should start going down a different route. Either way, all the mods we do here will benefit us, I think, in the future, getting the wiring all sorted out and everything. Yeah, comment down below, and then comment why you don't like coyote swaps.